Hello, broads.
Hi, broads. What's going on?
We have a special guest who is actually a friend of Grayston's dad's, is how I met him. And I don't know, I guess we can just kind of launch right into it. I thought it would be really interesting to talk to Alex. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi, Alex.
How's it going?
Thanks for joining us. Becca has been wanting to get you on the podcast. She's been talking about it for a few months now.
Well, I'm so excited. I've been wanting to get on the podcast. I know that you're chatty, so it's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
That we are.
Okay, so you can kind of introduce yourself and sort of give a little plug on who you are.
All right. My name is Alex Plank. I'm actually on the autism spectrum. I was diagnosed when I was 9, and I founded a website called wrongplanet.net, which is a leading resource and community for people on the spectrum and parents and even professionals anyone interested. We have over 130,000 registered members. It's been featured in everything from Good Morning America to the New York Times to the Washington Post. Pretty much, everywhere. And I also do public speaking for autism. And I also do entertainment type stuff. I produced an autism YouTube series called Autism Talk Tv, where we would go around the country and interview people. And we did an episode on toys, which was good. Autism toys, STEM toys.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, wow.
I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, well, like a lot of people on the spectrum have what's called, sensory issues. And so they like to do like repetitive behaviors, which is called stimming. And then a lot of times like a toy or some sort of texture thing.
Would like a fidget spinner?
Well, yeah, that was one of the things that a lot of autistic people like. But there's something called the fidget cube that was a lot of people have too. I like, and then also like weird squishy things. There was something called like the scooshy ball or the cushy ball. I forget what it was called, but it was this ball that you blew up with a straw.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember those.
Wait, do you mean the bubble sticky things?
It was purple and had like bumps on it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And various other things.
So that was part of the documentary series that you did?
Yeah, we would interview people, and then, I also act as well.
Okay, we'll get into all that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a long introduction. I apologize.
No, I have questions.
Yeah. So basically, I guess that's sort of the theme of this episode. I think we want to get into talking to Alex about autism, about your experiences, about, I guess, your personal life. We're really curious about what it's like dating and all those kind of things. And I know you're very knowledgeable, too, about obviously the community and just generally speaking. Like last week you were telling me about different challenges that people with disabilities face in the United States and as far as like work and pay goes and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. Do you have any questions to start out with, Jess?
Well, I think maybe just for our listeners who maybe don't know a lot about autism, when you say the spectrum, can you kind of give us a little more of an idea of what that might look like?
So basically, autism is a disorder, a pervasive developmental disorder, and it affects a lot of people. And
what does that mean, a pervasive developmental disorder?
Basically, it means that your development, there's issues with the development. So for autism, it's development with like communication, social skills, eye contact, reading body language. But it affects other things too, like it gives you issues with sensory integration. So a lot of people, can't go anywhere without their noise-canceling headphones, right? Like, the airport would be too much for them. Or
so what does that mean? Does that mean like the volume's turned up on
too
those
loud.
on those
so
sensory?
Well, yeah, it's like you can't, like if you're at the airport, it's like this loud thing. If you're cool with that, you would probably just sort of zone out the background noise and just sort of not pay attention to it. If you're on the spectrum and you have a sensory issue with sounds, for instance, every single sound will be like intense, and you will be like focusing on all of that, and it will be like so overwhelming. You know what I mean?
Basically, so your brain can't tune out what those kind of things.
Yeah. So like, and like you might have like just be more sensitive to all those things.
Yeah.
And if you're sensitive to smells, you might, any various smells that we all sort of just don't notice might smell like the worst smell you've ever smelled. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like very intense.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's got to be really I can't imagine having those intense feelings constantly.
Well, that's the thing, though. There's like ways to sort of manage it. And, you know, if you have noise canceling headphones, that helps, or don't live on a busy street.
Yeah. Yeah.
One of my issues was like the sound of bass, because that like cuts through everything. So getting a really good pair of noise canceling headphones really helped with that, and figuring out ways to sort of soundproof, you know, my living situation helped.
So when we're talking about people on the spectrum, like what is one end of the spectrum
Right.
and what's the other?
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's not really like one end. It's more like
Okay.
a continuum, or it's more like it's more 3D than that. Like you could have someone has a lot of sensory issues, but, you know, socially might have a really easy time compared to someone else who's not really, you know, having trouble with sensory issues.
Got it.
So I say it's like more of a continuum, like where, and also at the same time, someone could be not speaking, right? So a lot of people will use the term low functioning, and that's the low end of the spectrum and the high end. And I kind of find that offensive, because it's kind of like, you know, like grading people on like how, you know, good they are or something, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Which I think is silly, because it's like everyone has value. And
Right. Valuing them on how easily they can integrate
yeah,
into
and
society.
it's like, you know, they might be incredibly intelligent, smarter than most people, but like they just can't deal with, you know, things that are normal in society. And so like I like to view disability as a societal thing. So it's like instead of it being like deficits on a single person, it's the societal model of disability. So let's say you are a wheelchair user, right? Now you might think that's like incredibly disabling, but if there's like ramps and curbs and like elevators everywhere, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like,
It's not going to affect
I mean,
that
you might not be able to like run after someone as quickly, but like how often do you need to do that?
Right,
You know,
right.
and just to live a normal life.
Right.
And normal life is sort of also a loaded term, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you were talking about it too, people that might have like more sensory issues, like you're talking, but maybe, like you said, they're far more intelligent than the average person. That wouldn't, in certain areas, you might view it as a disability, but in other areas, it could be like a super ability.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people are familiar, you know, with like Rain Man and all
Yeah.
these kind of like tropes of
Yeah.
an autistic person.
Yeah. And you know, a lot of people might say, oh, well, Rain Man, that's just a stereotype, and have a problem with it. But I would say that that's, you know, that's one of the first movies that really brought it to light. And so it's really did a good service to bringing that to light. So I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to try to bring about awareness of all these
And
issues.
representation.
Okay, we have to pause for 1 second. Before we keep diving in, I want to be honest with you, broads. I'm wired in a way where I can find myself getting into a rut sometimes creatively, like, you know, that frustrated feeling. Why am I not feeling inspired? Staying creative is easier said than done, especially when you have a busy schedule. But one way I personally reignite my creativity is by getting back into an old passion or getting excited about learning something new. And you can too. Build, fuel, and expand your creative fire with Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for the creator and all of us. They have thousands of classes in photography and creative writing to design, productivity, and much more. And their classes are on demand, so you can learn at your own pace. No rush and no exams or reports due. Learn whenever you have that spare moment. I found a class a few weeks ago that inspired me so much in their presentation essentials called How to Share Ideas That Inspire Action. It was extremely motivating. I highly recommend it. And I happened upon a class that I feel like so many of our business owning broads would love called Building an Etsy Shop That Sells Strategies for E-Commerce Success. And there are so many types of classes to choose from. It's endless, really. Join millions of students already learning on Skillshare and get 2 months free when you sign up at Skillshare.com/chatty. You can learn a lot in 2 months. That's 2 whole months of unlimited access to thousands of classes for free. Get started today by heading to Skillshare.com/chatty to sign up. That's Skillshare.com/chatty.
Yeah. Can you speak to your personal experience?
Sure.
Yeah. Like
And
maybe
like what
when
you experience, like, yeah.
or
So-
even like when you found out.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
when your
So I
parents
was,
found out.
yeah. Well, my parents were sort of getting me checked out. Went to back when they thought it was like one in thousands of people were like me, you know what I mean? So, and it kept getting, a higher rate and a higher rate, but that was because they realized that there was just people that were just sort of forgotten or, that have always been here. Like even back, hundreds of years ago, there were autistic people that were inventing things.
Yeah.
Right. So like, a lot of people theorize that like Thomas Jefferson or various quirky people, who contributed greatly to society because they thought differently. They didn't conform to the norm.
So maybe we are not actually having higher rates of autistic people. We're just recognizing them for the first time.
That's pretty much widely held scientifically.
Okay.
There's some
I
people... I
wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of people that are like, it's an epidemic and we need to fix it. But that's, there's a reason behind that because it's easier to make people care about something they think, oh, this is a big issue that all of a sudden happened and we need to start addressing it. Mm-hmm. Whereas, if it's always been here, it's like, well, it's always been here. We don't need to donate to your organization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you do because people need supports. And, my special interests, when I get into them, I learn everything about them. For instance, flashlights is a recent one that I've really...
Alex, flashlights are out of control. He has lasers.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, do you have
maybe
this
I shouldn't
huge
be talking.
collection? Oh, maybe I should. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I have a rather large collection of flashlights, yes.
Really?
And they're extremely high powered. Like
and
they can
expensive.
go hundreds. Can they even go thousands of feet?
Well, yes, because how many feet are in a mile? Like
5,000, I think.
Yeah, so I have one that can go like maybe 7,000 feet. I have one that goes 1.3 miles. So
whoa,
yeah, no, like
that's
these
wild.
We were playing with these lasers. Alex was getting really nervous because
the
I was
lasers
shining
go
this,
God knows how far because they're so.
You can see them in the sky. They're like the crazy lasers that you can get. What's the fine you can get for using these lasers?
Well, there's no fine for using them. The only fine that you would encounter if pointing a flashlight or a laser at the sky, and the laser is like the like green one where it's like the rest are just flashlights, but they look kind of like lasers because they columnate like a Hollywood like premiere spotlight. So like you'd probably be like, oh, someone must be having a premiere, or they
and it's
reopened
just
a Hollywood
in your
video.
Backyard.
Do you guys remember Hollywood Video, like the rental suite?
Oh,
it was
for
like,
sure.
And they had the spotlights, so
Yep.
someone might think that they came back.
Well, okay, but you're saying, but what's the fine if you're using the laser
like
in
there's
the sky
like a few $100,000.
Because you can
point
distract planes.
If you point it at an airplane, it's an FAA thing. It's like a
federal
crime, and you could get prison time and hundreds of thousands of dollars of fine.
Yeah, so Alex is getting really nervous.
So
I was getting crazy with this.
I was making sure that like anytime an airplane came, I was like, all right, grabbing
Please
it.
do not get me arrested.
Well, you would get arrested. I don't get in trouble for handing you a flashlight. Everyone, it's your. That's like if I hand my keys to you, I don't, get in trouble if you like drive into people.
True. But that's one of your special interests.
Yeah, and then I'm also training this service dog. That's become an interest, but I've gone. You saw how well behaved he is, and I've only had him a week. So
and you rescued him,
Yep.
which is amazing that you've trained him so well.
Yeah.
Oh wait, so when we got off track, when did your parents you said your parents were getting you? I know we deviate from the.
I love
from
deviating.
The yes, it's what we do.
I even
often.
have a deviated septum. So. So I was 9, and so they had got originally like OCD, ADHD, and all those things sort of did describe some parts of me, but like weren't the full story, right? Like, I would get obsessed with things, but not because of the OCD really. I mean, obviously it was more of, a comorbid condition, which it means it comes with the autism, right? So like, I went to the University of Virginia, there were some people there, and I did all these tests, and they were observing me and writing
How old were you at this
stuff
point?
down. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Well,
How old were you?
9 when I got
9, okay.
diagnosed. Yeah. So I actually was rummaging through, and this was pretty shortly after because, it was pretty much on the top of the pile. I was rummaging through I like to go through their documents as a 9-year-old. That was one of my things. And I found the thing and I confronted them. I said, what is this Asperger's syndrome thing, autism? And they're like, oh, and then they told me. So they were going to tell me anyway.
What did they say? What did they explain to you?
they got like, those books, and I think they just read what the book said, how to tell your child.
With that included, how to tell your child. Step
they
one.
said, they just read out loud how to tell your child. No, so, they were very supportive and always encouraging all my things to do. They got me involved in theater, music. I was involved in the orchestra, the band. I was in the marching band, but I didn't like marching. So I convinced them to let me be the leader of the percussion pit. I played the marimba and the xylophone, and I was really good. I like used two mallets in each hand and was like going crazy. In fact, so much.
I love the xylophone.
Oh yeah,
it's one of my favorite instruments.
And to the point where like the band leader was constantly on his megaphone up at the top of the hill. So like we had this big hill, and then below it was the football field, and like at the very top he would stand and with a megaphone and tell people what to do. And a lot of times it would be, Alex, play less loud. And keep in mind, I was not amplified in any way.
Alex,
I
you're
was playing a
shredding
single,
too hard.
I was slamming the shit out of those keys.
Oh my God. Well, I love that though, because I feel like you have the ability to kind of get like swept up in the things that you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's kind of one of the special things about being on the spectrum is that, I don't know, I feel like people on the spectrum have the ability to just get like lost in what matters to them. And there's something like beautiful about that.
Well, it is. And it's like one of those things that like, I don't think it's easy to sort of explain. I mean, you seem to get it, but like a lot of people just don't get how much joy you can get out of like a special interest. It's like, I mean, it's not like a person, right? But like, it's something that brings you almost like the same kind of like joy that you would get like spending time with someone you love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So and especially if you can share that with another person, that also is a great way to bond with, someone on the spectrum.
That's so neat.
Yeah.
What are some of the common misconceptions about
a lot
autism?
of misconceptions, I think, formerly were, sort of that, they didn't, people on the spectrum, they can't talk or they won't ever have a normal job. And a lot of times, there is trouble with employment because people just don't have the patience to sort of understand and figure out how someone works. Yeah. And they try to approach them like they would a neurotypical person, which is what you would call someone who isn't on the spectrum. Or, and I don't know, I guess, oh man, sorry, I ruined your podcast. I ran out of things to say. All right, well, it was nice talking. Sorry, I wasn't chatty enough.
No, but I guess I'm just curious, like, why I feel like sometimes people do get frustrated very easily who are neurotypical, as you would say, with people who are on the spectrum. And I'm wondering, like, if you have any kind of idea of what that stems from.
I think it comes from, like, people just, like, not understanding it and not taking the time. I feel like people who have more patience and are more willing to try to figure out how someone ticks, I found a lot of times like more creative people who worked in theater, who were in the theater, who like did acting, were more fascinated by how humans interact and sort of watch. And so I found a lot of acceptance in like theater at school and, doing musicals and stuff like that. So I think there's certain people who don't get frustrated, who just sort of understand it, who take the time, whereas other people immediately get turned off by it. They're like, okay, that person's really weird.
Yeah. Like, I think some people get uncomfortable.
Like, I mean, and I understand it. Like, if I meet someone and I don't get why they do the things they do or what their deal is, like, I at first sort of feel like, okay, let's take a step back. But then I think about the fact that I probably might have, had that effect on many people. And, I try to take I know how it feels to sort of be instantly just sort of shunned and discarded and seen as like, oh, well, that's not someone I want to, waste time getting to know. Yeah. Which is crazy because there's so many cool people on the spectrum. I have like some really crazy, awesome friends.
Well, like you were saying about employment, I just think like what a shame that people can be so impatient because like you were saying, so many people with autism have these incredible skill sets and how an employer could use those to benefit their company.
Like more so than like someone who's not on the spectrum. Like and fortunately there are some companies that have started initiatives to sort of harness that. Like SAP, Microsoft, they all have programs where they're training autistic people and then also training the people that they're going to work with on how to sort of create like a synergistic, that's the words they use.
Yeah.
They like that word.
Synergistic work environment.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Synergy. But
That's PR talk.
yeah,
for
oh yeah.
sure.
Yeah. That's like, but no, and they found that they actually are like significantly more effective, especially in SAP is one of the largest B2B companies out there. They have thousands of, hundreds of thousands, I think, employees all over the world. And they found that they're autistic people who are working in quality assurance, which is like finding bugs in software.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, they find bugs like so much better. And all they need is like someone that they work with that can check in and like sort of be like a bridge if they have issues with communication. It's more cost effective to have that than to have like, someone who's better at communication, maybe who doesn't find as many bugs.
Sure. Is that stereotype kind of true that autistic people are more thorough? Because I feel like that's sort of a stereotype.
Well, yeah, and I think that also you're right that, everything's a stereotype. So obviously
Right.
we say, this, it's kind of like saying, oh yeah, well, women are more,
Sure,
better caretakers. And then like,
of course, there's
which is-
people that don't always adhere to the stereotype. There
Right.
are always exceptions.
and then like, stereotype that, men are better at, being cold, hard, making decisions, which is, you obviously know is not necessarily the case. And there are plenty of men that are, not good at making decisions.
Totally. Hard facts.
At basing out their emotions.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what was your experience like? You talked a little bit on how people can shut down, immediately people that they don't understand or people that aren't like them. I think that's one of the biggest things. How did you experience that in your early
growing
life?
up, it was a lot harder because, especially younger kids, like, they're going to be less likely to be more mature and sort of
Yeah.
take that thing, and they're bully. And I would, especially middle school in that time where, I would go home crying every day from school. I had a really rough time.
Did you go to a public school?
After elementary school, yeah. I went to a public elementary school for up till I think 4th or 5th grade, and then I went to a private school because it was just too much.
Yeah.
Their bullying got to be so bad, and it was like the teachers and principals sort of didn't know how to handle it to the point where they were making it worse by sort of validating it. Like one time, the deciding or the catalyst for my mother taking me out of that public school was the principal taking a bunch of kids, and she had a big office with a round table, and seating all the kids that were, bullying me around with me, and everyone got to say one thing they didn't like about me.
Oh, what?
Which I'm laughing about now, but it was quite traumatic. You know what I mean?
Oh
Like,
my God.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I'm not trying to say, by laughing at it, it's just sort of my way of dealing with the
Well, it's
situation.
absurd.
It's just so crazy.
Yeah.
Though.
It's
Yeah,
absurd. It's
exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
And that's why I kind of laugh
But can you
at it 'cause it's like,
imagine?
no,
Well,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. Anyone who's, and you're not a principal of an elementary school, and you even know that's crazy.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine being in your position or being in your parents' position, like knowing that happened to
Can
my
you
daughter.
imagine if that would happen to Ember or to Ruth?
I
would lose my goddamn
feeling like
mind.
I'm
Yeah.
starting to cry thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get your
Yeah.
chest really pumping.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, yeah, as a parent, like, can you imagine like your kid telling you that and then like being like, I can't, and just.
No.
You and I mean, you would probably do the same thing. Like
Oh,
the
I'd-
minute move to another school.
I would sue. I
Immediately.
would sue the fuck out of it. No, but I mean, do you know if there's any kind of sensitivity training or anything like that for teachers and principals and people who work with children
There
now?
should be. I mean, there's training now even for police.
Yeah.
Because that's a big problem, especially, and that's another thing. Like, among minorities who are autistic, especially where because like. If you're black, like, and you're you're pulled over by the police, that's like one of the most dangerous, 15 or whatever, how long it takes, minutes of your life, just because, there's this like
Stigma.
and racism against the, black people. But then if someone's behaving erratically, they're trained that that's like a threat. So they need
Yes.
to know that they need to be able to recognize, and even a white person who's behaving erratically, they recognize as a threat. It's not it doesn't have the added, racism element that is unfortunately the case in this country. But so that's very dangerous.
Yes.
So they do that kind of training. So I think that, that's in terms of sensitivity training, that's like a very important thing,
Absolutely.
So your mom pulled you out of the school.
Yeah, and I went to this place called Free Union Country School, which was in a log cabin.
Oh, wow.
We had 3 grades in one classroom.
What?
Yeah, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Like there's only a few people. I think there was like 4, maybe there were 4 or 5 people in my grade in the class. There was more people in 3rd. It was like maybe 30 kids, but there's like a bunch of teachers, and they would sort of separate us for some things and not others. It was not like a school for autism. It was just like a school for like people that wanted their kids to go to the Free Union Country School.
And how was that? How did that differ with your experience?
It was great. I still got bullied, and but the teachers would sort of intervene and actually encourage like more like
understanding.
Yeah, and so it actually worked. And then I went to middle school in the public school, and that was rough. But by the time I was, high school was hard at first, and I gradually started getting more. I think what really shifted things was when I, as I said, joined theater and started doing that. I mean, music was okay; people were cool. I was like good at it, but I still got bullied in that and. Yeah.
And then theater was a good experience?
I loved it. Yeah, I was in West Side Story. I played Baby John.
Nice.
My favorite line was "Zip guns, gee."
And Jess and I were both in theater in high school too. So.
It's so funny because I do feel like theater for everyone is the safe place.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful place when you feel like you're maybe different, whatever that looks like, and you want to be around people who want to be different together.
Fellow freaks.
Yeah.
Well, here's another thing to add on what you said, which is
Yeah.
entirely true. I grew up on the East Coast, and there's a different energy there. When I moved to LA, instantly it was like a lot of the things that before would have been like red flags to people were, just sort of embraces me being different,
Really?
and then like even telling people I was on the autism spectrum was more like, instead of being like, oh, I'm so sorry for you, it was more like, oh, cool. Is that what Lady Gaga has? And I'm like, no, but like, yeah, sure. Believe that. You know what I mean? Like, it's more of like, oh, that's cool. Because everyone here, has, something in a way. It's
something
like
different.
Well, yeah. What drives people to move away from family to pursue a dream in the entertainment industry, especially, you kind of have to be, not entirely,
a little more open-minded.
Yeah, exactly. Open-minded and more, just in general, creative people are that way.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
How can people kind of educate themselves and educate their own children to kind of break down the stigma and the misunderstanding and to sort of make themselves people who are more comfortable around people who maybe aren't like them specifically?
Well, I think a lot of it is just sort of exposing your kids to a lot of different types of people and sort of not being like, not being like trying to make it seem like there's a stigma. Like, a lot of times you'll hear parents say like, oh, well, I don't use the term disabled. They're differently abled. But like, what is that saying? You're saying, well, there's something inherently wrong with the word. It's like kind of like that's a euphemism. If you have to use a euphemism, you're kind of, at first it sounds right. Like at first thought, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to, stigmatize someone, but you're just further doing it because everyone knows that you're still, you're disabled. It's just differently abled is a euphemism. That makes it worse because if you have to come up with another word that's not actually what it is.
Not as bad. Like,
yeah, it's not a bad thing. You say, I have a disability, and it's like, okay, cool. Like, if, I have friends that are, a wide variety of different disabilities and wheelchairs, and I don't, think it's weird or wrong, I think a lot of things are, about them are really cool, and it's not in spite of it's just part of who they are. I don't like to be like, oh, well, they're, that's not a part of who they are. That's just like something that happened to them, because that makes it sort of that makes it say like, oh, well, but yeah, something happened to you, and it's like sort of victimizing you and making it so that you're less, or
it's like, I love you even though you're in a wheelchair, or like you're great for a person with autism. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's that kind of
even then,
energy.
Like, and so that's why I say like I'm autistic, because it's like, people are like, well, we want to use person first language. I'm like, yeah, but like, do you use person first language when you call someone a mom, do you say they're a person with motherhood? No, you say they're a mom because you don't think,
Yeah.
like
That's a really good way
Yeah.
of phrasing it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you're an owner of this business. You're, and you're autistic.
But you
It's
don't.
like,
You also, as you separate that from like who you are in a certain way. I mean, it is part of who you are, but you're not just a mom. You know,
Right.
it's by saying you're a
Absolutely.
mom. It's not like taking away the fact that you are also other things.
yes, yes. Oh, I really like that explanation.
Oh, yeah. All right, we have to pause for one moment to chat about a company that we love so much. Since we started wearing this company's jewelry, we rarely take it off. Like, for real, I have their earrings in 95% of my life, and I've asked for one of their rings for Christmas. So, Evan, pull through, okay? It's Orate. Orate is fine jewelry made in New York City, founded by women. Pieces range from classic to statement to completely original. Orate makes the jewelry you've always wanted but could never find. It's all real gold, and you can wear it and never have to take it off. Shower, sport, sleep, cook, anything. It's jewelry for life. And all Orate pieces come with a lifetime warranty because they know it lasts. And because Orate sells directly to you without the middleman markup, they can offer the same quality jewelry as traditional Fifth Avenue brands at a fraction of the cost. Orate really hacked the jewelry market, making real gold accessible. Orate was founded on the desire to shake up the jewelry market by offering these modern, beautiful designs with amazing quality at affordable prices and ethically sourced pieces that you can wear every day. Like I said, I wear mine almost 365, 24/7. I also love that you can buy the earrings in singles. You don't have to just buy them in pairs. I have one little gold Libra earring for myself, and then on the other side I have a little Scorpio for Ember. I have a little cuff and a little X. I'm obsessed. Broads are always sliding into my DMs actually asking where my earrings are from. They're Orate. And like I said, Orate is ethically made in New York City, empowering women with the best jewelry options without sacrificing style. And for every piece sold, a child in need receives a book to further their education. You can give the gift of high-quality, sustainable jewelry this holiday season without the killer price tags thanks to Orate. For 15% off your first Orate purchase, go to oratenewyork.com/chatty and use promo code chatty. That's AURATE newyork.com/chatty and use promo code chatty for 15% off your Orate purchase. oratenewyork.com/chatty, promo code chatty. Okay, so speaking of gifts, I'm trying to purchase sustainably this year, and teaser, we mentioned it last episode, but this coming week, I believe, we're going to be having an episode where we get fully into living sustainably. Super excited for that. Anyways, an amazing sustainable gift to give those femmes you love in your life are Rothy's. Rothy's shoes make the perfect holiday gift. They are stylish, they're sustainable, comfortable, washable, really the all-in-one pair of shoes. They have a huge range of colors and patterns to choose from, which they drop new hues constantly, and they're seamlessly knit using thread made from recycled plastic water bottles. They've already diverted over 40 million plastic water bottles from landfills to make these beautiful, sustainable shoes. And another major bonus, they're fully machine washable. Every time that you need a refresh, you just toss them in the washing machine, and it's like getting a fresh pair every laundry day. Parents or people buying for people with kids, pro tip, kids' Rothy's are the most amazing purchase. They're so cute, and because they're machine washable, it makes it so much easier to keep the shoes for a long time for the kiddos. Also, so comfortable. Because they're seamlessly crafted through 3D knitting and hand assembly, they provide out-of-the-box comfort with zero break-in period. I mean, it's not a secret that I'm in my Rothy's quite frequently because it feels like I'm wearing slippers, but they're sharp looking, okay? I'm obsessed. Love them. Also, for those interested in Rothy's as a gift, or getting them as a gift for yourself for the holidays, order them by December 20th for delivery by December 25th. Check out all the amazing styles available right now and give the gift of comfort, style, and sustainability by going to rothys.com/chatty. That's rothys.com/chatty.
Okay. And I just had a thought too. My mom actually put me and my siblings when we were little in a gymnastics program called Break the Barriers.
Yeah.
And it was in Fresno, and it was integrated gymnastics program with kids with a bunch of different disabilities and kids that didn't have disabilities. So I would go to summer camps and stuff, and there would be like, you know, maybe like 10 kids that were, quote, normal. You know, I don't know what did you say? Like neurotypical. And then how would you say, like, if you're not disabled with your body? Able-bodied?
I think, or abled. A lot of people say abled.
Okay. Yeah. Abled and neurotypical. And then I
see that a lot on Twitter. I think it's partly because of the character limit, but also because some people, it's like, oh, if they are autistic, like they're still like not necessarily able-bodied, but they're also, a lot of it's in the mind, and then some people separate that. So I just like to prefer the term abled.
Abled. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's a bunch of abled kids, but then there was also kids that were in wheelchairs. There were kids with Down syndrome, kids on the autism spectrum. And so me being like a 6 or 7 year old, at first it was kind of scary, you know? Because it's kind of like, I don't understand like how these people are functioning or why they're doing certain things. But then we were in that program for a couple years, and I feel like it really shaped the way that I now as an adult interact with people, because it's just like, oh, it's just there. It's, I don't know. It just made me more comfortable from a really young age.
I remember when I was a kid, and I remember there was like, if I saw someone with like limb difference, or like, like they're they have a amputation, and like, at like the elbow. I don't know the proper terminology. I hope I didn't say anything offensive.
We know what you're talking about.
But it would freak me out. And now, I know, a bunch of people, and you see more of them in ads and on TV, and like, and
there's actually a girl on The Bachelor that is missing one of her arms.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And I think she was just born that way.
Yeah, it's a lot of times that's the case, which I didn't know. I assumed it was like,
some sort of accident or something like that. Yeah.
And and they also have these cool like bionic arms that they can use too. That are like, kind of, I think is cool.
Yeah, I think
it's
so
incredible.
Too.
Yeah, just what you're saying though. It's when you were talking about that, Becca, as well. You being in the gymnastics class, was it?
Yeah.
Just like the idea of, if I were, as a white woman, to only be around other white, female, neurotypical, abled people, like how boring. And how, like, your life is so not enriched, versus being around. You have to be around all
people
sorts of people.
Like
you have to be around people of different colors, people who have different bodies, different minds. That's what makes, I feel like, what can make all of us grow, and life so much more complex, and you can understand people so much better. And I feel like, I don't know, it's been so encouraging lately, like you were saying, ad-wise and media-wise, that, we're including people of color, and that's becoming more of a push. And I just am so excited for the future to hopefully be including more people with autism. And like you said, you were involved in acting and you were on a show, which is so amazing to me.
I just wanted to say too, people who are in positions of privilege, whether you're abled or neurotypical or white or all these different things, I feel like it's our responsibility to push ourselves out of our comfort zones, to put ourselves in places where we might not be comfortable, because people who might be on the spectrum, or who might be all these different things, they're a lot of times constantly in positions that they're not comfortable with. And so I think it's kind of like a responsibility to like push yourself out of your comfort zone if you're always in that place.
And I think we need to push like disabilities as the thing, because it's like interesting, because you see like a lot more ethnicities being given the spotlight, and even people who are non-binary, and yet like disability is like one of those areas where it's like it's still seen as like something's wrong with you, almost.
Yeah,
like,
people don't know how to talk about it either.
Right. And it's like it's kind of troubling to me that like the same people that would be like, oh yeah, let's like hire and entirely like minorities ethnicity wise on the show, wouldn't have anyone in a wheelchair, and they would think that's diverse. You know?
Well, actually, I want you to talk about this because it was really cool. You got to play an autistic person on The Good Doctor.
Oh, yeah. Well, so that was great. I thought that was fantastic. They wrote an episode where there were 2 autistic characters, actually. And our characters were sort of the focal point of the episode, where we, were the storyline that the two people that come in and that they deal with that episode. So it wasn't even just like, a token thing. And then the main character on The Good Doctor is played by Freddie Highmore, and that character is autistic. He's not, but for this, they wanted to actually hire authentically, which I think is important.
Which is so cool.
And so, we shoot up in Vancouver, and I was there for a few weeks, and it was great. Yeah.
Do you know the specific season and episode number so we can check it out?
Yeah, season 2, episode 13.
Okay.
I watched it. It's really good.
I will be.
Yeah.
That's really neat, though, because I think a lot of times, I mean, I think it's great that The Good Doctor has, the main character is someone that's autistic. And of course, the actual actor isn't. But I think it's so important that we do hire people who are, what did you say, authentic? Is that what it was? What you said?
Authentic
like
casting.
That.
But like, keep in mind that like, even like in the 90s, they were casting white people to play different races. Right.
Oh.
So like, in Short Circuit, the Indian guy was, played by a white guy with either a tan or, I don't know if he was wearing darker makeup, but, he was a white guy and he played an Indian person. Right. So now that would not happen, but yet they seem to be like kind of okay with like doing it like with someone who has a disability. So you saw Bryan Cranston in that movie recently where he played a paralyzed man, and there was a lot of controversy about that. But, he sort of argued that, he could play it. And I watched the movie, and, he's a good actor, and, he was able to, play a guy that, people would watch and sort of see something from. But you could tell that it was, I'm sure that someone who's paralyzed could see so many things that were wrong or...
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a sort of an air of like, it's not entirely authentic, right? Like, because I don't know, you can, actors draw from their own life experiences. And yeah, sure, like you could draw from some experience, but like, that's part of who you are. It's hard to draw.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully it's something that's been changing, but it happened a lot, with like trans people too, where they would cast someone who wasn't trans.
Yeah, exactly.
To play someone. And it's like, why not just cast? I mean, there's how many millions of people in the United States? Like, can we not find someone to, who actually deals with the things that this character is dealing with? Yeah,
and also like if you are a wheelchair user, like, and there's a part for a wheelchair user, like, being an actor is already a hard job, and it's very competitive, and there's a lot of things. If the one time, like, one or two auditions this year are for people with who are in a wheelchair, and those are the parts you want to play. So
competitive.
If those are given to someone who isn't in a wheelchair, that's like your one chance to like, you're like, finally a role for me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah, I can totally understand.
They say like 10 to 20% of Americans are disabled. So like, that's like a large population that's like not there. And you go out in public and, just because of like, access things, it's a lot of times a lot of those people don't go out because it's just such a hassle. Like, being in a wheelchair and going, getting around and.
Yeah. Well, you brought to my attention something I had no idea about in terms of wages for people with disabilities. So can you please tell us about that?
Oh, yeah. So, like, this sounds crazy, but there's a law, how we have a minimum wage law that protects exploiting our workers? There's an exception if the person's disabled.
A clause, basically.
Like, yeah. So, like, basically, like, if someone wanted to pay me and say, well, he's autistic, less than minimum wage, including less than $1 per hour, they could because, they're helping the poor guy out, which.
Yeah, you could pay someone who's autistic.
He couldn't get a job otherwise. No one would pay him because, he doesn't do anything. God,
and this is national?
That's a law, yeah.
Yeah. There's a clause. Basically, I could hire a whole team of disabled people and pay them 75 cents an hour if I wanted to, and if they accepted it. So
and a lot of times that's a lot of times they're being sort of forced into that because there's also this thing where parents are getting what's called a conservatorship on an adult child, and they So they're
Explain
basically saying
that.
you have to. Oh, it's basically when you say, oh well, I'm now actually still your legal guardian, even though
Got
you're
it.
above, you're an adult.
Yes.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? So they have to do what the parent says, and like
Yeah. Oh, so sometimes a parent might force their child to get a job as an adult.
It's like they can't really move out if
Yeah.
they're under a conservatorship because they can't make medical decisions alone. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's like I think that's not right, right?
Yes.
You know.
Wow. That's insane. Is any of that? Are they working to change that at all?
No, but and the other problem is that like a lot of times the parents are doing it for like a good reason. It's like you can't get services for your
Sure.
child needs,
Yes.
unless they're under that, because once they turn an adult, they lose all those things.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm interested in your career and what you do.
Yes.
Well, I do a lot of public speaking. I run the website. Right now, most of what I do right now is, I'm trying to focus on doing like entertainment stuff and make that my main thing, doing acting. But as I said, it's hard, I have the top agent in the field. I've known her actually since 2005 when or maybe even 2004. I forget when, but I was in high school.
Yeah.
And she emailed me from California asking if I knew any autistic actors. And like, I am. So I did an audition, and I the producers really liked me. I was like one of their top choices. I didn't get the show, and the show never actually really got picked up. So, but I stayed in touch. And when I moved out here and I started working on The Bridge on FX, I worked, that's a TV show that was on FX for 2 years. It was a drama that was about they find a body on the bridge between the U.S. and Mexico, and Diane Kruger and Demi and Bashir were on it, and Diane Kruger played an autistic detective. So I was on set every day working with the writers and the actor.
Oh, wow. So they
coaching
were like
Sort of
her.
a consultant.
Yeah, that was my title. I was
Wow.
the consultant. And then I also was like, hey, I wanted to read a part at the table read. And when I read it, everyone clapped, and they're like, why don't you play this character in the show?
That's amazing.
So-
Slowly sneaking into the cast.
Oh, watch out, pup.
Uh-oh.
Oh, he got his little leash wrapped around his leg.
Oh, yeah.
You guys aren't watching the YouTube. We've got a adorable pup in the
Yes.
studio right now. His name is Max.
A
He's a
gorgeous
little service dog in training.
service
Yeah,
dog.
I've trained him to do one of the things, which is the deep pressure stimulation, which is basically you train the dog to, when you're having a meltdown. A lot of autistic people, one of their sensory things is they'll get a meltdown. They get so overwhelmed by sensory issues, and what a lot of people have found is that what helps is a deep pressure.
Like weighted blanket.
Yep, weighted blanket, or in his case, he will get on you and just lie there and apply deep pressure until the meltdown will subside.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Temple Grandin?
Yeah,
Yes.
I was actually going to say Temple Grandin is a good friend of mine, and she came up with this thing called the hug machine.
Yes. So Temple Grandin, if you guys haven't seen it, is a fantastic movie played by
Claire
Danes, who sat next to her dad on the plane. He's great. Love him. Me and Claire are friends now. No, not
One
really.
of Becca's favorite moments.
One of my favorite moments by far. Love you, Claire Danes. No, but Temple Grandin, the character that she plays, is a real person. Like you said,
Yep.
you're friends with her. And Temple Grandin is an autistic person who, she was pretty young, right? In her early 20s. She, I believe, or in college age, she designed...
She's an animal rights activist, sort of, but like in a way that's like you would actually not realize. So like basically like, she basically has, her special interest is animals, and she sort of talks with them in a way and sees what's bothering them and sort of understands them on a deep level. That's part of her autism, as and part of who she is. So she just came up with this idea to
She created a hug machine for herself, which was sort of this like device that would sandwich her between like two boards and kind of like squeeze and apply pressure. Because the thing is, an autistic person might need that pressure, but probably doesn't feel comfortable with a hug from another person. With like,
yeah, sometimes they do. It depends on the person. But for her, it was like not just a hug. It was like a deep, full body thing. And and it found that like animals, like that helps animals, right? So like they've implied that in livestock and everything.
She changed the game when it came to cattle because with cows, when they were being herded, it would get really chaotic, and the animals would get really panicked, and it could become a really inhumane situation.
And not only that, I mean, just from a business standpoint, if an animal is in shock and stuff, it's like the meat is not good. I know that sounds horrible, but it's like that's bad.
It's
and like
true.
But it's cruel to the animals.
And sometimes you would lose animals because they would stumble and like break.
And they don't like walking over certain surfaces, and they would be having to walk over grates.
Yes.
And they would be next to a freeway, and there would be no covering, so they would see the cars driving by.
Yeah. So Grandin basically like was able to tap into sort of her own experience, and I think sort of empathize with the animals, and created a system that I think is now in place all across the cattle industry. She created this special system.
It's you're making a hand motion. You have a camera too, so people can see. But it's like basically like a little maze, and they want to go, and they're not stressed.
The maze has like siding that is really close to the animals, so they don't see what's going on around them, and they're kind of just funneled through very calmly, very peacefully. And she designed this whole system that's really completely changed that industry.
Yeah, I think 75% of them are designed by her. She goes around and gives talks. I was at one conference that was like there was like two conferences. One, it was an autism conference, and also there was a beef industry conference at the same one. They had really good brisket for dinner.
But she also talks a lot about, I think, sort of not overcoming, but really being able to work with her own disability. I believe.
Yeah, it's not overcoming. It's she used her being disabled or being autistic to create a great career for herself, and she changed the world. And there's so many people like that you wouldn't know. There was a professor at my university that won the Nobel Prize for creating he invented the field of experimental economics, and he's on the spectrum. And he said that if he hadn't been diagnosed, he probably wouldn't have done that, because he'd be out partying during college instead of focusing on his special interests. And Temple Grandin, to get back to her, likes to say that, well, you think the people that were rubbing sticks together were neurotypicals, or and created fire, found out how to make fire,
sitting there for hours on end?
Yeah. Do you think the guy that invented the wheel was a neurotypical, sitting there like making something round and attaching it to a cart?
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the fun stuff now.
Sure.
Which is, let's talk about dating and your experience in the dating world, because I know you have a lot of good stories. You always have good stories.
I don't like to brag.
I don't like to kiss and tell.
What has your experience been like from, early adulthood until now, as far as like dating? And like, do you date people who are neurotypical? Do you date other people who are talk? Well,
I when I was younger, even in college, I was sort of worried I would grow up alone, like the stereotypical loner or something, and I'd never find a girlfriend. So I was very nervous about that, and it kind of like was not good, because it made it so I was sort of had like a whole thing about like how this is, I was worried about it.
Yeah.
So I'd never relax on dates or something. And once I figured it out, I was like, oh, okay, well, of course people like me. I'm awesome.
Yes.
I can relate to that.
More people need to hear that about themselves.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm awesome.
I have something to offer.
Yes.
So like it changes. And I found out, and the more I dated and had girlfriends and stuff, the more I realized, okay, well, I probably won't end up alone. And
how did you kind of get out of that shell, though? From the point where you were putting a lot of kind of pressure on yourself and were really nervous, how did you transition to the point where you started feeling more comfortable to just be you?
I don't know. Honestly, I just practiced trying to, I made friends with people that I thought seemed to be fairly good with the ladies.
There you go. You immersed yourself.
I would just, and I'd go out and I practice, I'd go, even to bars and stuff, and probably, and talk to girls. I'm sure that.
Would you like try out pickup lines and stuff like that?
Fuck yeah. I would try out, probably like to the point where I was like, like, quote, creepy or whatever. Like, I didn't know any better, but you know what I mean? Like, but I picked up on when they walked away, and I was like, okay, don't do that again.
Yes.
Try something new.
Noted.
Right? But like, and then I, eventually realized, the right ways to go about it, and flirting and you know, you could kind of tell if someone's into you, and yeah.
Interesting.
So are you now, like, do you typically meet people when you're out and about, or are you meeting people on dating apps?
I love doing the dating apps because, like, obviously the person's already interested in dating you.
Totally.
Except the weird people that are like, oh, no, I'm just on for friends.
You're like, get out of here.
I'm like, you're on Tinder. What the fuck do you think this is for? It even says, just looking for friends new to the area. I'm like, what the hell does that even
make
need?
an app somewhere. Get off of Tinder.
There are apps specifically for that.
Also, it's
not
like the way it
Tinder.
works is you're swiping on a picture. Like, what?
Right.
Like,
are you
like
attracted to this person or
as a
not?
f-
You're not like, do I want this person to be my friend?
I have a very specific aesthetic I look for in my friends.
Yeah, like how mean is that? I'm not okay with a friend that looks like that or that friend that looks like that.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's like it takes away that element of not knowing and, like, you know.
Do you have on your profile like I am autistic?
No. I just, you know, have, like, you know, just my picture. And
Yeah. What do you write about yourself? I'm just curious.
Nothing much. I just, like, have a joke, I think, on there. I forget what it is, but you know, and then I just have. Oh, I think I wrote that I have a foreign car health insurance, and please press in a heart of gold. Please press yes.
I like that. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
It's charming.
You know, I don't want to put, like, you know, my biography.
Right. No. Nobody likes that anyway.
Well, now you can add to it that you were on Chatty Broads.
Yes, I was on Chatty Broads. So you kind of have to press yes. If you don't, there's something wrong with you.
Do you like Tinder, Bumble, everything?
Yeah, I do that one called Raya, which is for celebrities.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
you're on Raya. Hell yeah, you're on Raya.
I just love that you're on Raya because I make fun of literally everyone who's on Raya. And then
Oh,
when
it's
you
great.
said you got accepted, I was like, oh my God.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, you're stumbling upon
For
some
people who don't know.
very famous people on Raya.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Raya is like this exclusive dating app that you have to apply to.
Yes.
And what else? I don't really know anything about it.
It's basically just like a dating app that's for celebrities, or if you are like a certain level of degree in the industry.
And, like, also, like, really cool people that celebrities would want to date. Like,
Yes.
it seems like they have, like, like, you know, you could be in sales if you're, like, really hot and, like.
Yeah, exactly. If you have a lot of money and you're really hot.
Yeah.
Or maybe a lot of Instagram followers.
Yeah.
But like Raya's very protected because if you, for instance, someone like John Cusack is on Raya.
I think you're not allowed to say if you're on it, like, who's on it, by the way. Or
I'm not on
really?
it.
Oh, okay.
I'm
well, you
married,
read.
so I can say.
Yeah, I'm not on it either.
So he's on, right? But
I don't know because I'm not looking for people like John Cusack.
you're not interested
I'm not,
in the big JC.
I'd be honored if he swiped on me, but I would not swipe on him.
Like, thank you so much, John. But you know, no, but you can't take screenshots or else you get kicked off. So like, people can't find someone. Let's just say, I saw Meryl Streep on there. I'm like, I got to show all my friends. Try to screenshot. You'll
Which
get
is
kicked
annoying
off
because,
the
like, I like to take a screenshot so that when I show up, don't say hi to, or I don't say hi to the wrong person.
There you go.
Like, you know, to put as the picture on there when you're texting them, right?
Even though
Yes.
if you are going on a date with John Cusack, you'll probably recognize him.
To be fair, yeah, that's true, I guess. I didn't think of that part, yeah.
So is your dating life like pretty? I'm sorry if I feel like I'm acting
just
like you're
have-
this weird like person. Like, so what is it like dating as an autistic?
Well, I
person?
was saying that we
I'm
should
just-
have, like, a autism world, like a theme park, like Disney World, like, and like also have like a neurotypical kingdom, like where you like go and like autistic people sit in open-ended. No.
The
No.
doggy's chewing on the leash right now.
Come on. No. Good boy. What were we saying?
Oh, I'm just curious on if you've ever had any like weird experiences or like negative
Nope.
experiences when meeting new people off of dating apps. and
Yeah,
with
you know,
dating
I
stuff.
get weird people. Like, I also feel like, I'm looking for someone specific, I guess, and so it's just like, you know, you kind of can tell, and then I'm sure it's frustrating dating for anyone, you know.
100%.
You know what I mean?
I was
And,
going
like,
to say when I asked you that, I realized that pretty much anyone who's in the dating world in
yeah,
LA or
I
on
think I
dating
have
apps
like the
is going to
same.
have weird negative
I have the
experiences.
same like I think I have like pretty much the stereotypical like, oh my god, why are people so shitty?
Yeah.
Experience. I
Yeah.
mean, no, I meet a lot of cool people, but like,
Yeah.
you know, maybe the people that I like think that I'm one of the shitty ones.
Yeah, true. That's
you have to have like a
flag,
mutual
too.
like that's the one. You know what I mean? That's why and so people go on so many dates on these apps. I've talked to people and they're like, yeah, I've been on like tons of dates from this app. And
Yeah.
like to the point where it's like 50
Yeah.
this year.
When you do start dating someone, how soon do you tell them that you are autistic? Is that something that it's like,
Well, if they Google me, they'll find out.
True.
And
That's very
everyone gets
true. We
Googled. Like
Google.
my name pops up, and it's like my Wikipedia, and it's like this long thing about all this shit that I do and who I am, and that I was diagnosed, and all this stuff that's publicly available information.
Yes.
So I sort of just mention it generally in passing if it comes up, and otherwise don't mention it. Unless you know what I mean. Like when you're. Like, you don't tell someone everything about you unless it comes up in conversation.
It's like I have bipolar disorder, and I don't by any means go on a date and go, by the way, get ready
Just
for some
so you
crazy. Because I'm bipolar.
You got a long ride ahead of you.
I'm like, that's something you're going to find out eventually.
Yes.
Just
yes.
by experience with me.
Do you want to like get married and have kids?
Yeah, I would love that. To have miniature versions of myself that I can train to do chores around the house. No
think
need
it's
for a service dog when you have a service kid.
I know.
Yeah, no,
100%.
obviously. I'm kidding.
But that is something that you want.
Ruth's well trained. I've
Ruth,
interacted.
in the next year or so, will hopefully be doing dishes.
Yeah, I think I already saw her doing. She was cleaning the couch.
Yes, with her mouth. You mean? Because that's something that she's into right now. Is putting her
and
mouth
she
and tongue on everything.
already takes all of Becca's photos for her.
That's
she
true.
takes all of Becca's
She's
pictures.
like my human tripod.
Yeah.
Love that.
You know how they say like your Instagram husband. She's your Instagram.
She's my Instagram
infant.
baby.
Yeah.
She is my Insta infant for sure.
Your I.
Yes. That was the sole reason I actually had her. was
Right,
to have
of course.
My PA, my II.
A good prop, a good photographer.
Exactly. A good
That's really all
prop
you
and
need.
accessory. Yes.
of course.
Have you ever dated someone that has autism?
Oh yeah, well it's weird because it's like a lot of times the ones that end up being like longer term, that's more than like a few months, are actually I think most of the ones that have been like
Serious?
a year plus have all been on the spectrum.
What's that experience like? How does it differ dating another person who's autistic versus someone who's neurotypical?
I think it's just like one of the things about you. So it's like it's kind of like it makes some things easier.
In what sense?
Well, obviously someone who is on the spectrum comes from a similar place. It's kind of like, if two Asian people were dating each other, they would come from similar experience and, it would make some things easier, like, the parents, right? Meeting the parents, because there would not be a culture difference.
That's true.
Right? So, like, there's always, if someone's different neurologically, there's going to be similar things because, there'll be like, oh, well, I like to be social at this party and stay all thing, and the other one might not want to stay out that long and get overwhelmed.
Yes.
But at the same time, they could also be like, oh, well, they can just pick up the slack socially and they can just chill, and it actually might make it easier for the autistic person, that relationship, because the social person's being social and they can just relax. And
well, I guess like any other relationship, you have opposites attract all the
exactly.
time. People who are super outgoing, people who are much more introverted, people who have different strong suits and different interests and hobbies and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But the family thing is actually really interesting because you might be dating someone who's neurotypical and that person is like super comfortable, like, with someone who's not neurotypical, and then you would maybe meet their family and it might be something that the people in their life would be awkward or uncomfortable around for whatever reason. I mean, there's a lot of stigma with people that are disabled.
Yeah, but like also the autistic person might be obsessed with car repair, and you are, the worst with cars, and your cars are always breaking down because you don't even know that oil's supposed to be changed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it could actually end up being a thing for you.
So I want to talk for one quick second about something that will absolutely be a time saver and maybe a lifesaver during this extremely busy holiday season. Do you know what is especially busy during the holidays? The grocery store. And speaking of grocery stores, I can't tell you how many times during the holidays over the past years, I realized hours before a party I'm hosting or going to that I forgot some major ingredient for my famous cornbread. at least I consider it to be famous, or realize that I forgot that I had to bring an appetizer in general, and I have to make one super quick, and I don't have time to go all the way to the grocery store, get the ingredients, and then come back and cook. Well, I found my grocery shopping hero. It's Instacart. With Instacart, groceries are delivered in as fast as 1 hour or at a time that works with your schedule. You can order from the stores you usually shop from, local and national, stores like Costco, Ralph's, Sprouts, CVS, Petco, and so many more. All you have to do is get the app or go to instacart.com and order the groceries you need. And once you order, your amazing personal shopper gathers your groceries with care, just like you would, picking excellent produce, just as you do, and chatting with you if necessary. If you want something and it's unavailable, they'll recommend substitutions. They're amazing. Instacart has always provided me with an incredible experience, and I know I will be using it frequently during the holiday season. Try Instacart and get $10 off and free delivery on your first order. To get this limited time offer, download the mobile app or go to instacart.com and enter our promo code CHATTY at checkout. That's $10 off and free delivery on your first order today in the mobile app or at instacart.com. And don't forget to enter code CHATTY.
Well, is there anything else that you'd like to just share with anything like about yourself or maybe about the autistic community or any kind of blurbs?
Just go to wrongplanet.net.
What exactly do you do on the website, and what inspired you to start that?
It's like a social network. Oh, yeah. So that's actually a good thing. I used to only talk about the website because that was like the first thing I mainly did. Now I have so many other things that I do. Yeah, so I started the website because I wanted to find other people like me. So it's just like a social network.
Interesting.
You know?
Like a forum?
Okay.
Yeah.
Or like Facebook style. But
Yeah, and a lot of people go on Facebook now, but like it's still like sort of like a specific thing. We have articles and videos and social skills guides and like a whole community of people. It's like a very cool thing.
A social skills guide. What does that entail?
Well, videos. Like I do a flirting video where I teach someone to where Liz Laugesen from UCLA's Peer Center teaches me how to flirt using her methods.
No.
Wait,
okay.
Hold on a second. You're going to have to demonstrate.
You're going to have to tell us
please.
exactly what she does. What's her methods?
Well, Eddie, it's actual methods that work. I mean, it's very simplistic. So, like,
trust me, there are listeners who will benefit from this. So
yes.
please share.
Well,
I have not been in the dating game in a while.
I was on a
oh my God, yes.
a reality dating show called Love at First Kiss, which was created by the producers of The Bachelor.
Oh my God, I remember this show.
Yes.
You were on this?
Yes.
He was the one doctor in this. I'm like, geeking out now.
He was the one that people were coming and kissing.
Yes.
Well, yeah, everyone on the show gets kissed.
Oh, I thought there was like the one person and then like multiple people come and kiss them.
Oh, right. Well, yeah, I guess that you're right. I forgot about that. I was the guy that like they were finding
all the kissing.
Yes.
Right. Well, I picked the first person.
Wait, okay, explain it, please. You picked the first person?
How'd you get cast for the show in the first place?
I got a message on Facebook from some sketchy like casting agency.
I think that's how The Bachelor does it though too. The Bachelor will just like
it's
reach
the same
out to people
casting
through
agency
Instagram
that did The Bachelor.
Yeah.
I say sketchy, but it's like
yeah, because they'll just message you out of nowhere. They do this for The Bachelor too.
Yeah.
They'll message people and be like, "Would you be interested in being on a show?"
Yeah.
So they messaged you, and obviously you said yes.
Well, I thought about it because I was like, well, I don't know. They're only paying me a few $100s.
Yeah.
But I get to make out with people for free
on TV.
Or they get to make out with me, so of course I get paid.
They don't, but I do.
Yeah.
So what? What did they tell you to do? You're gonna have to walk us through this.
So they put you in this like big soundstage that's completely painted white. They have and it's like super brightly lit at the point that they have like these enormous hoods on the camera lenses with neutral density filters to like block out like the light, just because there's so much light that like, they need to get rid of it. The camera wouldn't be able to like film anything if it wasn't darker for the camera, but it's so much light that everything looks like bright. And they're wearing like little booties so they don't get like their dirt from their shoes on the white floor. And I just stand there and I wait. They have a preparation room with all this weird like stuff you're supposed to like prepare with, which like I don't get, because like who wouldn't have prepared right before they got there?
What kind
like
of preparation
gum,
stuff?
mouthwash,
Yeah. Oh, no
dental
way.
floss, and like
oral care.
I brushed and flossed before I came, like, and I brought gum, like with. maniac is gonna show up at Love at First Kiss with like that, like after they ate a garlic bagel or something, you know?
Like tuna sandwich, dirty mouth.
Kind of psychopath.
So I didn't use any. And also I was like, is this, what did someone already pull some of the dental floss out? I have my own dental floss. I use a special dental floss that's like amazing.
What kind of dental floss?
I think it's called like cocoa floss.
What is it? What's special about it?
I don't know. I went on a date with a girl that was like the PR person for Cocoa Floss. She's like, this is like Jennifer Lopez's favorite flavor. She's like, I brought you a gift on my date. So that's like the one I use now. And it's like $10 for like the standard little thing. They sell it at Sephora.
We're going to need some of that with our flossing issues.
Yeah, I know. We just started flossing. We weren't flossing for a really long time. Then we had an astrologist tell us that both of us needed to floss.
And I don't know if that's because
we do it now.
Was she also a dentist?
No.
Because maybe she just was both.
No, she calls herself a health astrologist.
And she was talking with us through a very like grainy camera, so she definitely couldn't
like
see
she
our
saw
mouths.
our teeth. But she
No.
was like, okay, and both of you need to floss.
Well, everyone needs to floss, though.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
that's like an easy go-to.
Yeah. Okay, do you believe in astrology?
Well, I believe that people do it. Like...
What's your sign?
Cancer.
Interesting.
nice.
When's your birthday?
June 27, 1986.
Well, we're going to have to pull up your chart later.
Oh, yeah, let's do it. I'm
We're
in.
gonna dive in.
I love it. Like, I believe all of the things that people say are things that they believe to be true. And probably do apply to me, but, you
That's
know.
incredibly diplomatic.
That is.
Okay, so back to the Love at First Kiss. So you got out of the
Oh, yeah.
preparation room. You're like,
You
don't
go
need
in and
any
you
of
wait,
this.
and then, like, there's, like, this long walk in. She has, like, we each have our own handlers that are, you know, producers, like, sort of, you know, trying to hurt us to where, and he's there, you know, I've got my guy, she's got hers, her girl that's like, oh, yeah, you know, and then, like, she walks out, like, walks all the way across the soundstage to the middle, and I was like, you look beautiful, and then like make out with her. Because
by the way, you can Google it, can't you? Can't you look it up? I think I looked it up.
You watched like part of it. You missed us going on our driving range.
God damn it!
Which, by the way, you know, reality shows, they use very deceptive editing practices,
It's
which
true.
unfortunately they did on mine. In
what do
one
they do?
instance, yeah, I was very offended actually. I'm actually very good at golf, but like not that good. Whereas like sometimes I fuck up, but I only fucked up once. They had like 3 or 4 cameras on me, so they made it look like I kept fucking up, and then other than that, I kept like hitting it perfectly. She
They made you look like a shitty golfer.
yeah, she fucked up every time. Like couldn't hit the ball. Then did hit the ball. I think they cut in one of my hits, like when she did hit it, because it didn't go very far.
But they made it look like she was
It
just
made it,
sorry.
like, yeah, it made it look like I kept fucking up, and like she won the thing, and then like
That is shady.
That is really
That is
shitty.
yeah.
very
But other than
shady.
that, actually, the autism angle was like they treated very sensitively and like perfectly. Was really good. The reason I actually did end up doing it, because like I thought, well, you know, I'll talk about autism. I'll mention that at the day, you know, and worst, you know, hopefully they won't cut it together in a way that makes it look bad. You know, I'll make it so I say everything good, that, you know, they can't really cut anything to make it look bad. And it ended up to the point where like I looked on Twitter, because there was all these like people that watch reality and then
Yes.
tweet. Did you
Yes.
notice?
Oh yes. It's,
Okay.
I don't know if you've noticed, but
No, it's like a bit. I know people go crazy on Twitter with reality
And
shows.
one of the guys that was verified on Twitter, who was like has a bunch of followers, who was like a critic of reality television, mentioned that, you know, the guy who has Asperger's, who's autistic, is doing better than any of the other guys on the show with girls. So I was I felt very proud.
Good for you. You can Google it, by the way. Alex
Yeah.
Plank, Love at First Kiss.
Yeah.
What
we'll
happened
be
with you
doing
and the
that
girl?
immediately
Oh,
after.
we dated for a little bit.
Oh
and
wait,
then,
did you really?
Yeah,
you
actually-
continued.
Yeah, you know, for a few months, and you know, it was not the perfect match. So you know, we sort of just we didn't even break up. We both had traveled at different times, and then sort of, you know how
Parted-
it goes sometimes. Yeah.
A
Parted
few
ways.
months though. I mean, like that's better than a lot of reality TV show
Seriously.
couples that we watch.
Yeah,
It's
I was.
impressive.
They did a really good job putting two people together that had like, you know, like seemed like they would be compatible, and you know,
That is so cool.
Amazing. I want you to go on, what's that one show that was just on Netflix? The dating one?
Oh my gosh, have you seen that show? I can't think of what it's called.
Oh, it's gonna
First
bug
Date.
me.
Isn't it just First Date?
Is it?
It's a Netflix show where basically people go on. There will be one person, like you were the one person that all the people were supposed to kiss. They'll go on 5 first dates, and the show is only like each episode's only like a half an hour, but they edit it so that you see the person doing all the same things with 5 different people. You know what I mean? So they'll go to the like same restaurant with each person.
Did you? Can I?
Yeah, cut in.
So, did you ever watch the show Master of None?
It's one of my favorite shows.
Have you seen the episode in season 2 where it's like one date at the same restaurant where he says
Oh
the same
my
things, but it's
God.
with all these different
It's one of
women
the-
who are like all being
yes.
cut in? Like, that's such an incredible episode of television. I thought like that was
whole
like
season, I was just like a mess watching the entire thing. It was one of the most beautiful
oh god, it was
things
so
I've
good.
ever seen. Yeah, but it was very similar to that.
Yeah, like that's
How it's
reminding
cut.
me of that.
This is
Exactly.
called Dating Around.
Dating
yeah.
around that.
It's
I wonder
really
if they
good.
watched that and were like, we should make a reality show based on that one
Maybe-
episode.
maybe.
seriously, because it's cut beautifully, just like how Master of None is. You would be fantastic on it.
Do you have any kind of like dating rituals that you do?
Yeah, I tend to like to go to the same spot just because like I don't like
Where you go?
one of 2 places, which is one is kind of in walking distance, but I take an Uber because it's like not really. It's like over a mile away. Then the other is like 2 blocks from my house.
What places?
It's
Can you
secret.
give them away?
I
No,
can't, if
those
I
are
give them
special.
away,
Okay, I'm
No.
just
Then
curious. We
the
all
girl
live
that
in LA,
If,
so
if one of the Broad Squad slides into his DMs, then he doesn't want to give it away.
True.
You know,
yeah,
he wants to surprise him.
I'll take them somewhere special that no one's ever been,
Oh,
which
Are you
also happens to be close to me.
Are you single right now?
Yeah.
Okay, Broad Squad.
broads.
I do. I want to find like an understanding girlfriend. I've been on so many dates, like, and it's like either like. I don't know.
Do you get tired of doing?
I do.
playing the
It's like
dating game?
I get tired because it's like you and then you might meet someone that's like kind of nutty. I don't like to use that word because it's like ableist, but like maybe just like not right
Yeah.
for me.
Off. Someone who's a little off.
Off of my radar. Like maybe
Yes.
someone
Yeah.
else would be perfect for them.
Yes.
But
That's very nice.
yeah. And then like.
Well, yeah, I know firsthand that you had a
I
pretty crazy experience.
Yeah, I won't talk about that just because it's too traumatic for me. Still, it's fresh.
Anyway, you've had some difficult dating experiences, and it must get old. So, what are you looking for in a woman? Describe it. That way, if any of our broads fit your description, they can slide in your DMs and not waste your time.
Yes, because we have had some, I believe, a few successes from having
Really?
a few male.
up.
Well, at least like some dates, yeah, with some of our a few of our male guests.
Jess,
yeah.
what are you talking about?
I can't get into it.
Okay,
I don't
well,
want to.
this sounds-
I don't
I'm
want to
excited
reveal
about this.
anything.
Craig, for sure. It's definitely Craig. Okay, so who are you? What kind of girl are you looking for?
Someone that gets interest or gets joy out of my special interests. Like doesn't get annoyed by me talking about cool things.
What do you find cool besides flashlights?
Lots of things. Like right now, I've been talking about dog training a lot because that's currently it. Range Rovers, British vehicles. I've only owned cars made in England, just so you
Oh.
know.
Posh,
Wow.
pinkies
I
up.
don't think anyone's gonna have a problem with the range.
No, I don't think so either.
Right, but I'll be like talking about like the various models of Land
Features
Rovers.
of
We
it, yeah.
will go off-roading on, sort of like camping, but like also like with the vehicle driving over like, terrain that you
Like a movie, like a commercial.
out
Like a
in
Range
like
Rover
yeah,
commercial.
exactly. That'll be something I enjoy doing. Yeah, so I don't know.
Range Rovers, flashlights, acting.
Yeah, acting, someone who's got like something cool that they do
Yeah.
that's like also understands like the lifestyle of someone who like basically just goes and does what they want like at any point. Like so like my work, like I basically like I do public speaking, so like when I have to do public speaking I have to leave, but like I also do auditions and acting, and so I sort of have a very unstructured, like I don't have a 9 to 5. So
You're creative.
yeah, so someone who understands that lifestyle. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
I could do a 9 to 5. I think I did one once or twice, but I prefer.
Yeah. Not
What are
for
your
you.
strengths? What do you have to offer someone?
strengths. I've got good upper body strength. I do squats, so I've got good lower. I've got a good core. I've got all strength. I'm totally strong.
100% strong. Verified.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say you're like a compassionate person, like a serious
I'm very
person?
compassionate, and when I see someone that's being sort of ostracized or being treated poorly, it really bothers me to a point that I don't think other people. I'm very sensitive to that, being someone who grew up, having that happen to me. So I think that's really important.
I have a question, Jess, we have not used in ages that we used to ask every single guest.
Oh my God.
So I think it's the perfect time to bring it back. Alex, our final question for you. You're on death row. Lord knows what for. What is your last meal?
A meal with the key and a letter from the governor saying you're pardoned in it. Like, how you get proposed with a diamond ring? You could put a diamond ring in there too, but that's not necessary as part of this. It's the key to get out and the letter saying you're good. You don't even really need the key, just the letter that if I showed it to them, they would be like, you could go. Like a fortune cookie maybe would be a good one. And then I open the fortune cookie and the fortune cookie says...
A croissant with a pardon letter in it.
But not too thin of a paper, because I might think it's like, rice paper and eat it. Like, especially if it's like a sushi dish.
Yeah. What the hell is this? I thought I ordered a chocolate croissant.
That would be a tragedy to...
You eat the letter?
your pardon.
Yeah. I mean, but if I wanted to pick the food for it to, if I got to pick what it was,
yes.
I would say...
That's the most genius
I would
answer
say...
I've got.
Omakase.
What is that?
It's a sushi with many courses that the chef picks. It's like $150 you pay, and then they serve you. It's,
Wow. Oh, so you like sushi too. Noted.
But, they have like a whole variety of courses, and I love like bluefin toro, like uni, if it's good.
Uni, yes.
I had bad uni once at like a expensive restaurant. I was like, what the fuck?
I'm sorry.
Don't name any
But
names.
it was one of those expensive restaurants that's like, probably the people from Raya would go to.
Sugarfish?
It was more snooty than that.
Dang, more snooty than
I know what
sugarfish?
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not that great, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it's very mediocre.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
and is it in West Hollywood?
Yes.
Yep. Is it on Sunset Boulevard? I think.
Oh, I don't know if I know the exact.
I think it's on Sunset Boulevard.
You guys are too much, you snooty fucks.
I'm sorry. When I pay for the uni, I pay for the uni.
I pay for uni that's not bitter.
Tragic.
That's like bad uni is like one of the worst things you can put into your mouth. Well, that's probably not true, like arsenic or like cyanide or something. But
It's not poison.
Anyway, Alex, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah,
it was
so
amazing.
Appreciate it. And is there anything as we
Check
wrap
out
up
Wrong Planet,
Yes.
guys.
you'd like to plug?
Follow him up. What's your Instagram?
at Alex Plank. I'm also on Twitter at Alex Plank. I have more followers on Twitter, and I have a blue check mark, so I prefer giving that one out to people that I'm trying to
Oh,
impress.
yeah. Oh, no, I understand
And
that.
I'm followed by more cool people on
Who
Twitter.
follows
I
you
know
that's cool on Twitter.
lots of people. You can look and see. It'll
will.
probably.
I will go look.
I'm excited.
Rose McGowan just followed me.
Really?
Oh, I'm a fan.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you, and we appreciate the pup. And hopefully, broads, slide into his DMs.
Yeah.
And if anything comes of it, and you find your wife, if we aren't officiating the wedding,
We're suing.
yes, hell to pay.
Yeah.
You not only will be officiating, you will be planning, since that's your favorite movie.
Perfect. Me and Matthew.
All right.
Thanks, Alex. Bye, Rods.
Chat soon.